the West Malaysian, especially the Malays at the time, who felt they were also underclass by the British colonial government. Now, we had a common mission. The common mission was to be different from the colonial rules, and that was to join together and to administer this new Federation of Malaysia fairly. But sadly, as you all know, Singapore seceded out or was booted out and what have you. So many arguments to that. But I later found out in a book, and I don't know how authoritative that is, where they said on the 6th of August, Singapore and Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman signed a secret agreement to secede away from Malaysia. That means Singapore to secede away from Malaysia. Albeit they should not have a secessionist clause in the Malaysian agreement. Now, that happened, and of course the Malaysian bill to remove Singapore was passed and supported by Sarawakian and Sabahan members of parliament at the time on the 9th of August 1965. Congratulations, Singapore, on your recent Independence Day, 9th of August. So, today, the Sabahans, likewise the Sarawakians, are saying this. Let's look back. Let's review this. Just like in 1965, when Singapore was booted out, I can speak for the late Donald Stevens or Tun Fuad. He wanted a review of the Malaysian agreement or the terms whereby we formed Malaysia of 1963. But through political maneuvering at the time, he was unable to because he lost his party at the end. And of course, through the passage of time, before 1976, he was made the High Commissioner to Australia and what have you, and he got lost along the way. The cause became different, and it became very political in Sabah at the time. Now, come 2013, of course, shamelessly, I have to promote myself like James. I believe I was the first one to mention and to push a motion for calling for the review of the Malaysian agreement. Now, of course, the Speaker, Tan Sri Panikar Amin, allowed me because I went to see him. I must tell what happened at the day. I went to Hansard, and there was never any request for the review of the Malaysian agreement and the terms of our entry and terms of which were proposed by the Intergovernmental Report and the Cobble Commission. So I took the chance and went to see the Speaker of the House. I explained my position, and he agreed with me, and he said, yes, I will allow you to speak, and you present your case. The next day I was able to read it in Parliament, but unfortunately, the Speaker presiding that day was not Tan Sri Panikar, nor even the other Deputy Speaker who came from Sabah, but someone from Pahang. He may not have understood my bahasa because it's really bad, but he probably understood my text, which I... Now anyway, he said, yes, fine, you have met two of the three ingredients to debate it in Parliament, but unfortunately there is no urgency at the moment. Now we got defeated because it is not urgent. Outside the House, I'm saying to everybody, it is urgent. There is a movement that is angry in Sabah. There is a movement that is angry in Sarawak. This is either from all divides. For us, I call it a good movement because that's awareness. But for some of my colleagues on the other side, the government will say it's a misguided movement. And hence, they will term it as a secessionist movement, which is wrong and which is misinterpreted. It is not a secessionist movement, but it is a new movement that, believe me, is going to probably continue and continue until the federal government finally accede to this Sabah and Sarawakian request to look at whether or not they have met whatever we have asked for during the formation of Malaysia. Now, religion. I don't really like to talk about religion because yesterday I was accused of being anti-Islam. So, and I can never be anti-Islam, no anti-Christian, no anti-Buddhist because we are all believers of something. And when someone like myself gives an opinion, I am not open. I do not have an opinion of any religion, but I have opinion of people who stops people from talking about facts, talking about the current situation. So, in Sabah today, the demography has drastically changed. I would like you to know more about Sabah now. It has drastically changed because I do not have the current statistics, but I feel what is happening in Sabah. We used to be a society that never talked about you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, you're this and you're that. We used to be a society where one house had a Muslim follower, in the same house had a Christian, and finally non-believers too in one house. They could all eat together, some, I'm sorry, drink, and then they just look at him and say, hey, that. So, they even used to have this, and I'm going to say this up. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say this. I have a cousin who's Muslim, and very pious, very strong Muslim. And he understands the culture. The culture during Kamatan requires merrymaking and what have you, and all sorts of foods and alcohols are served. And this cousin of mine, when he has functions, either a birthday function or even, Hari Raya and what have you, he will invite everyone to his open house. He'll be in the front of the house and inside the house. It's all proper. I love the rendang that his wife makes. But behind the house will be beers and alcohols. And for the Shivas fan, you have a 21-year-old Shivas, not too bad. So, anyways, that's the reality of Sabah. And that is the Sabah I know. But today, while my cousin does that still, today there's this funny thing going on in Sabah, where even the Muslims I know are saying this to me. I'm constricted because now I'm judged by people that is not that never understood our culture in Sabah, or people who judge me because I do this. As a Muslim, I feel constricted. This is his position. He's not happy. Now, I want to go back to the Sabah I knew. Of course, I don't encourage my cousins to drink. He does not drink, for the record. Okay? So, he doesn't drink. But he is okay with us drinking a little bit. I can't really drink, but again, it's okay. That's my point. But when you constrict that original Sabah that I know and change the way we think, at the same time changing our demography to make one particular religion more stronger than the other, that is not the Sabah I want. That is not the Malaysia I aspire. Now, my position is we must review the Malaysian agreement. We have to start even at the way we look at religion. The 20 points of the Malaysian agreement and the intergovernmental report clearly stated that Sabah is not bound to have any official religion at the time. But through the passage of time, amendments were made both to Sarawak, I believe, Nancy James. Sarawak too, right? Where they amended to have an official religion. I think Sarawak has amended, I was reading. It is. It was Sabah and Sarawak. I'm fine with that, it's okay. But what I'm not fine about is this, and I could record. No religion must be imposed over another religion, over other faith. The Malaysia that we aspired together gave us equal opportunity or equal position to be able to have opportunities from all walks of life. When there is, I see this in West Malaysia, when there are disasters, when there is a tragedy, nobody looks at their religion when they help each other. That is the Malaysia that we all aspire to be. Why is it that we can do it as a micro Malaysia, but not as a macro Malaysia? We have to relook into all this. And that call for the review of the Malaysian agreement is just but one of this. Because if we review it, we will see how many Sabahans in the whole of Malaysia were not able to participate in the federal civil service simply because maybe, not because he's a non-Muslim or a Muslim, but because he's a Sabahan. I think even up to a few days ago, I was with one senior officer in the Federal Civil Service. I asked him this question. So many Sabahans are saying in the Federal Civil Service, sorry, it's a problem with politicians. They don't have time.
What you say is timeless.
See, my wife bought me this digital watch to stop me from talking. She said you can't tell from the dial hands. So, anyway, now, I just want to end here, and I guess you all know what I'm talking about. Visit Sabah, see the difference that should be Malaysia. Visit Sarawak too. I love their kucing laksa. So, visit them, visit us, teach your kids, teach your friends, tell your friends that we want a new and better Malaysia. A really, really fresh Malaysia, a fresh Federalism in Malaysia. So we are not here to show hostility to anyone in West Malaysia, but we are here to work in convergence with you to put back what Sabah and Sarawak and West Malaysia should have been when we formed the Federation in Malaysia. I just have to end something since Tansi James must sing, ended with a quote. Because Professor Andrew Harding, if he was my professor, I would have angkat kaki. He's from the United Kingdom. I will quote Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson said, "It is first of all necessary that we should act in the right spirit. And the right spirit is not a spirit of hostility." Katohanan, thank you. All the best.
Okay, we've had two very interesting contributions from our speakers. Thank you both so much. We have a few minutes for your responses and questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from you. Anybody like to start?
I just came here to attend this forum. Thank you very much for the enlightenment from all our YBs from Sabah and Sarawak. So, Dr. James had mentioned about the opposition to the formation of Malaysia by SUPT. Can you express further what was the reason that they opposed to the formation of Malaysia at that time? And secondly, I would like to check, so ask Dr. James Masing. As a Muslim, I go through your the press statement that you are so much when activities of Islamic activities in the long class, you seem to be you don't feel happy with it. What was the reason behind it? I just for my thought. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Even though we were independent on 22nd of July, but according to SUP, it wasn't long enough. Give us more time to look at ourselves first, build ourselves, and then form Malaysia. The second about this second question about Islamization in Longhouse, I don't mind that, but don't Islamization into an area that has that religion. A lot of them are Christian. I don't think it would be nice for you to go in and convert the Christian into some other Buddhist, Islam, Hindu. I don't care, doesn't matter. But as long as don't touch them, if they belong to that religion, respect them and let them be. Because we also do not try to convert Islam into Christian. I think it must work both ways. And that's how I look at things.
Actually, I was 12 years old when Malaysia was formed. And I've been watching from the sidelines actually, and I was growing up then. I think we in West Malaysia are not actually aware of what's happening in Sabah, Sarawak. Not all of us actually. What I want to say, I think it's a very bold proposal by YB Darell to review this Malaysia formation pact. It's actually very good. On the other, and also I would like to ask a question here. What's the population of Sarawak and Sabah, and what is the literacy level? Because here, the politicians treat Sabah and Sarawak as their fixed deposit when it comes to elections, you see. Thank you.
Sir, okay. The population of Sabah today is 3.2 million, and the real population of Sabah today is 800,000 plus minus 3.2 million. I'm trying to say this. There's about 800 over 1,000 people who has been classified as people without nationals, non-nationals. So we get confused with them sometimes because when they come along to my firm, my legal firm, they do have their ICs. So I'm not too sure if they've been put into the statistics or otherwise. But we are told that we have 3.2 million. Currently we have about 1 million voters. Sabah is a very sad situation today where you go to the areas of East Coast, which is Sindakan, Tawau, and what have you. These are the places that exist a new population that is just unnatural to Sabah. Sarawak, I don't know, I'm not too sure.
Sarawak will have 2.5 million. We used 10 years ago, we were ahead of them. But Sabah has become more productive than us.
Let me just chime in here to say that you may be thinking this book is entirely about history and religion and identity and so on. There's actually a great deal about socio-economic issues, about issues of development in Sabah and Sarawak, and also about issues of governance. Let me just turn this back to Darell for a moment in the context of the Malaysia Agreement. How would you go about reviewing the Malaysia Agreement at this point in time, 51 years later?
Just so used to standing, habit of schools. So anyways, reviewing the Malaysian Agreement, in my view, should be to look at whether or not the annexes of the Malaysian Agreement 1963, which is particularly the intergovernmental report, have been met or otherwise. The financial provisions in Sabah is clear in the Federal Constitution. The 10th schedule, I can't quite remember which particular clauses, but I know it's within the 10th schedule. Sabah is supposed to get 40% of all the revenue collected from Sabah. Now, I did ask in Parliament, what is this 40%? Or at least, the amount. And they gave me a very small figure. It is only in the region of about 60 million. In the last few years, not in a year. So, I would love to really review and see what and where, how they have provided us with the financial provisions, and whether or not, the ownership at the same time of our minerals have been justly shared in Sabah, whether or not whatever we entered into post-1963 were done with duress, or whether or not it was done without much understanding from Sabahans at the time. One of the greatest review that I would love to see is the electoral boundaries. When Singapore was booted out or seceded out from Malaysia, the seats in Sabah and Sarawak remain more or less the same. Whereas in Peninsula, it is by a huge number. If you combine Sabah and Sarawak, it's only 56 parliamentary seats, as opposed to 166 in Peninsula. I mean, just look at the number, it just doesn't make sense. We are supposedly to be of equal partnership, yet our seats in combination with Sarawak only represents 56 out of the 222 parliamentary seats. My friend and colleague on the other side, the famous Dato' Bong Mokhtar from Kinabatangan, his seat alone,